Hello and welcome to Chapter 8, Organizing and Outlining. We've previously talked about how to support our ideas with examples, statistics, and testimony. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking that information and we are going to be putting it into an organization that allows for the audience to better understand, remember, and recall this information. Let's jump right in. Think of mnemonic devices. With mnemonic devices like PEMDAS or rhymes like 30 days in September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31 except for February, which has 28. We organize information so that we're better able to remember and recall it. We remember many things that maybe aren't relevant on the day-to-day situations, but when we do need it, we are better able to recall that information and therefore use it. Good example, I rarely ever know how to use, nor have I ever used a fire extinguisher. However, I remember the PASS model, PASS, pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze, and sweep. And therefore, I have organized it cognitively so that I am better able to remember and recall it. And we chunk up information like phone numbers, like social security numbers. We chunk them up into three different numbers, 714, 781, 4000, and thereby improve our retention of that information. So we can also do that in our organizations. So this is going to be the organization of our speeches. That is a joke. Ha ha ha. This is going to be the organization of our speeches, and it should look fairly familiar. So the thesis is going to be a single declarative sentence that will talk to your entire speech. Let's say your thesis statement is to inform the audience about elephants. Your main points are then going to be claims or categories with which to place all of the supporting material about elephants. So you have done a lot of research, you've developed a lot of support. Now, where do I put it? You put it in main points and subpoints. Let's say one of your main points for elephants is poaching, the illegal selling of ivory. So at that point, you can then, that is one single sentence that is only one idea. And that is incredibly important because with main points especially, we cannot have we cannot have multiple sentences because that means that it's multiple ideas and it creates less focus for the entire speech and for the entire organization. Then, within our informative and persuasive speeches, aka the larger ones, we are going to even break it down further into subpoints. And these subpoints will not be this support as well. Instead, it's going to be another claim or another category about this. So if the main point is ivory trade, then we would have the subpoint be how they do it. The second subpoint could be why they do it. And the third main point could be what are the resources that are going to combating this? And in so doing, I have fully covered the main point of poaching. And therefore, that main point, if those three subpoints are supported, that main point will be supported. And therefore, with all of the main points, if all the main points are supported, then the thesis will be supported. And lastly, the things that we'd been talking about, those examples, statistics, and testimony will all be supporting those subpoints. So why they do it, You may have an expert testimony about why they actually do this thing that is illegal and going to eventually, inevitably, cause the extinction of elephants. There could also be statistics talking about the economic conditions of people who resort to poaching, etc., etc. So this is going to be the organizational framework of our speeches. But if you are ever lost, think about this: the thesis, the main points, the subpoints will always be one sentence with no ands. Let's start with the main points. The main points form the skeleton of the entire speech. They can emerge through research on the topic. You may be researching and then all of a sudden find a new part of this topic that you never thought was there, and then that can become a main point. Also, we also have to start thinking about how many main points should our speech have. This depends on the topic and how much time you have in the speech. If you have 4 hours, then yeah, you might need quite a few main points and maybe a few breaks, breaking it into multiple speeches perhaps. Also, but keep in mind that if you have too many, the audience may lose track. So let's take an example: a recipe, how to make a cake. How many main points will you need, considering that there are 20 steps to this specific recipe? It is a trick question 3, because we chunk up information just like those mnemonic devices so that we're better able to remember and recall it. So if there are multiple main points, then it doesn't serve the purpose of organization in general. So there are many tips for preparing main points. First, keep the main points separate. They should remain distinct, meaning that what is talked about in one should not be talked about in another. A good example of this could be if I'm talking about poaching, and one of the subpoints of that is what are some things that people are doing right now to stop this. But then I also have one of my main points being that how we're helping elephants. That may not, I may have to remove that subpoint because I know I will talk about it in another main point. By making them more distinct, it allows for the audience to understand it better and remember and recall it better. Also, try to use the same pattern of wording for main points. First, second, third, that works. The reason why we do this is because we want to maintain consistency of the organization so that the audience is easily able to follow along, and balance out the time for main points. Because if you are talking about poaching for 5 minutes, but then your other 2 points are 2 minutes each, then that can be a very big challenge, and the audience may be a bit distracted by that. So, why is organizing a speech is important in general? To organize information so that we're better able to remember and recall it. But we can get even more into strategic organization and thereby creating a better understanding of the topic and to have the audience even remember and recall it better. So strategic organization is putting the speech together in a particular way to achieve a particular result for a specific audience. There are many ways of doing this. There's chronological organization. This may be the evolution of the bike, or maybe even a recipe for how to bake something. You don't usually Tarantino history. Start at the very end, then go to the beginning, then go to the middle. You just don't do that because it's hard to remember. So instead, we engage in chronological organization for these sorts of speeches. We also have topical organization, and this is where things just sort of break down into units. A good example of this could be dogs. There are certain breeds of dogs, so if you are talking about specific dog breeds, then topical organization may work. Another good example of this could be American government. What three parts, branches, does the American government fall into? Exactly. Executive, legislative, and judicial. So they just sort of break down in that way, and that can be used. In the same way, we also have spatial order, and this is how things are organized in space. So if you're talking about your three favorite restaurants in LA, you may talk to the spatial order. Here's East LA, Central LA, West LA. Or sorry, if you're talking about your three favorite restaurants, that actually would probably be more topical organization, first, second, third. But if you have my favorite restaurants throughout LA, then you would go, here's my restaurants in East LA, here's my restaurants in Central LA, and here's my restaurants in West LA. Then we have problem solution order, or also called problem cause solution order. This is simple. The first main point is the problem, the second main point is the cause, the third main point is the solution. Breaking it down, children on phones. What is the problem? Perhaps it could be a lack of social engagement. What is the cause? That it is incredibly convenient. And what is the solution? Providing apps that will minimize the amount of time that someone's going to be on their phone. There could be other problems and causes and solutions that could be shown through this, but that would break it down in a very organized way. We also have comparative advantage model, but not going to talk about that too much, but the general idea is that if you have the first main point would be the other person's proposal. Then the second main point would be your proposal, and then why your proposal is better would be the third main point. That one can be used and can be effective in certain situations, but it's not one that we're going to be using in this class. And then we have the causal order. The causal order is cause and effect. Yes, two main points, but we are also not going to be using this one, but a good example of it could be the fast food industry and the easily available junk food, and the effect would be the obesity epidemic. By showing those, it therefore then shows that there is a problem, that there is exigence, but doesn't actually provide a solution. There is one more called the structure function organization. A good example of this could be Tylenol or some other drug. Here's the structure of what Tylenol is, and the function, here's how it actually works. We have supporting material. Without supporting materials, main points are only assertions. Let's think about that. It is only an assertion without supporting material, because supporting material, the reason why we use it again is because it is outside of our perspective. No matter what we think about it, this example actually occurred. No matter what I think about it, this person actually said this. No matter what I think about it, this data has been found. So they are only assertions without support. Also, materials need to be directly relevant to the support to support the main points. In other words, the support has to support the main points. They have to be relevant. Go figure. And remember the big three: examples, statistics, and testimony. Now we move on to connectives. We've talked about the whole organization of the body in total. Now we are going to be talking about how we flow between and show where we are in that organization, because that can help the audience if they do somehow get lost. Maybe they zone out for a few seconds, that they will be able to find where we are again. We start with transitions. Transitions keep the information flowing and the audience with the speaker. They connect the main points by acting as a bridge of information and summarize and draws the central points that were discussed within the body of the speech. So, in other words, they review what you've just said and preview what you're about to say. So if I was doing a how to eat healthy, and I say my three main points are to eat apples, bananas, and protein drink, then I may say, now that I've told you about the health benefits of apples, now let me tell you about the health benefits of bananas. Yes, this can be more artistic than my very formulaic answer, but the reason why this is still effective, even if it is formulaic, because structure beats art. Function beats art at this point, because it shows in a very tangible way that I've just talked about this. Now we are moving on to this other point so that no one is lost. And to better improve the audience's understanding of where we are, we also have signposts. These are verbal cues to alert the audience to where we are in the speech. First, second, third, that can work. But we can get more specific by highlighting and emphasizing a point, changing direction, or creating a comparison, adding a similar point, being more specific, giving an example, acknowledging something and moving to a different point, or even following a line of reasoning. All of these show exactly what's going to come next, even within the sentence, so that the audience is not lost at all and they know exactly what's coming up. Now we've talked about how to build the body. Now we're going to talk about how to turn that into practice through outlining. What is this image? You aren't able to get it, but I have shown you all of the information. All of the information is in that image right there. You know what? Let me try to distinguish my points out further, and therefore will hopefully make it clearer. Did this help? Yeah, I think so. But are you still able to get it? No. Why are you not able to get it? It's all the information's there. You know what? Let me further distinguish my main points, further distinguish my outline so that you are better able to understand it. Are you able to see what it is now? Yes, indeed. It is Mario. Okay, I'll give it to you. But I further distinguished it out, and therefore you are able to understand the entire speech in total. You know, let me even get more specific. There we go. So this illustrates a very important part of outlining, that we should continuously try to spread out and organize through our outlining system how to get this image clearer and clearer and clearer. This is helped by having your main points and subpoints, one sentence and one idea without an and. The sub-points, yeah, they're going to involve a few more sentences because that will be support and may even require an explanation of it. But the thing that will help you improve the quality of your picture is one sentence, main points and subpoints. And so why is it important to outline? Well, it helps you get organized and keeps your information orderly and easily accessible. The main points will always be furthest to the left. The subordinate points will move further to the right. So I could just go down your page and find your three main points. Then go down your page and find all of your subpoints. And then go down your page and see all of the subpoints. Checking for it also helps us check for the logical progression of ideas. Each main point and subpoint only has one idea or statement. So it creates support for each point with the use of subpoints to ensure clear subordination is used, and each main point should then relate to the above point, and there should be more than one support or even subpoint for each main point. And a big reason for that is because every subpoint wants a friend, and we do not want to depress these subpoints by making them super lonely. We want to instead make sure that they have a friend. But more specifically, we actually do want to have multiple subpoints, multiple supports, because if there is just one subpoint, then it's not able to be developed further than that, then it just belongs it just acts as a way to focus that original main point. And we also practice the delivery of our speech with outlines. You will not be reading from an outline word for word. Instead, the outline will be used as a jumping off point to present your discussion extemporaneously. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but you will only have a few words on your outlines, and you'll be able to use it as a jumping off point to make sure that you're still staying organized. So the guidelines of what your outline should look like: you will have full, complete sentences. Use standard numbering, outline numbering, which is very easy to do if you use a word processing system that has a numbered list, which Microsoft Word and Google Drive do. Also, properly indent. Also, use the first word of each main point should be capitalized, just like sentences, and each subpoint should have at least two subdivisions. Write and label your speech at the topic with a specific purpose at the top as well. Those are some of the key guidelines to your outline. So we start with the working outline. This is the very first stage. This may just have main points and subpoints, because you are checking the weightiness of each point and making sure that you have the time to talk about these in your speech. Yes, it is messy, but it is a valuable part because it allows for us to organize our speech and even could potentially structure our research. Then we move on to the formal outline, and this is what we're going to be turning in on the informative first draft day, but also on the final draft day, the day that you present. It will be more detailed, used to identify and organize main ideas, list supporting material in full sentences, state the specific purpose of the speech, identify the central idea, the specific purpose, and label the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. But there's more. Also, consistent pattern of symbolization and indentation, just like your speech. Also state the main points and subpoints in full sentences. Label transitions, internal previews, and summaries. And attach a works cited. That's an important one. And give your speech a title, because that's for fun. Is this easy to understand? What about this? What about this? What about this? Again, each main point and subpoint should be at least one sentence without the word and. Try to avoid it if you can. Now we're going to transition from formal outlines, and this is all the work, now to the speaking outline. And this is to help us deliver. Think of the working outline as the big bomber. It's useful, has everything you need, full sentences, and explains every single point in detail. The reason why the working and formal outline is more important, is very important, is because you have developed all this information and you have all this information at your fingertips and you now know it. So then by the time that you do your speaking outline, you already know the information. You just have to say it at the right time. Do we need a written out script of what we think about certain things? No, of course not, because we have that already in our knowledge. So that is why extemporaneous speaking is a lot easier and, when done right, can be even better than if the speech were written out word for word and someone was reading it, or even if they had it memorized. That's where the speaking outline comes in. The speaking outline is like the fighter jet. It is useful, uses phrases or small keywords, very small, just the bare essentials, and gets straight to the point. So, where a main point may be a full sentence, with a speaking outline, it may be a small phrase or even a key word. So, we go from sentences to phrases and then eventually to keywords. That is the transition of how we are going to be going from a formal outline with all this information to key phrases so that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what that one means. Now let me just talk about it. Oh, yeah, that's what that one means. Now let me just talk about it. To then eventually keywords. Oh, yeah, that's what that means. Now I can just talk about it. Now that's what that means. Now I can just talk about it. And again, that is the quality and the benefit of of delivery outlines. Speaking outlines or delivery outlines are less detailed, used as a delivery aid, and only as a delivery aid, usually consist of keywords and phrases on index cards, match the structure of the preparation outline because it's just summarizing the preparation outline or formal outline. Match the outline with as brief as possible, single words or small phrases. The reason why we really do this is because how long does it take to read a sentence? How long does it take to read a small phrase? How long does it take to read one word? Eye contact is key in regards to public speaking because eye contact builds a connection with your audience. Not just in public speaking, but also in interpersonal interaction. What do we think when someone tries to divert eye contact? Perhaps they're hiding something. So, we want to try to have eye contact as much as possible and using these small phrases, even if it saves 2 seconds every time you look down, it is still highly valuable. Also, shorten the introduction and conclusion. Transitions and supporting material should still be there, but only in small keywords or phrases. And do not include the specific purpose statement at the top of your delivery outline. The reason why you do that is because the specific purpose, the whole point of it, is to focus what you're saying. Some guidelines. Oh, last thing about this. Is he holding his note card correctly? Should it be landscape or vertical? It should be vertical because with a vertical note card, it allows for the card to be seen less. Also, if you are writing out in small keywords or phrases, you won't take all the way across the note card. So if it's just here, taking it just across here and then just across here, it allows to save space. Also, don't write on the back of them because the audience will be able to see it. So be sure you're following the visual framework. Make sure the outline is legible so that you can read it. Keep the outline as brief as possible and give yourself cues in delivering the speech. This can also be helpful, saying breathe here, or use gestures here, or change your pitch here, take a pause here. That can be very valuable too, so that you can then help yourself and guide yourself through your delivery so that you are more impactful in your speech. That is all for outlining and organization. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day.